Welcome to our how-to series. So in this video we're actually going to look on how to fit a skylight. Now when you fit these onto vans, they've quite often got ribbed roofs, okay? Now sometimes at the front you also get a flat area. So if you've got a ribbed roof, we use what we call an adapter plate, and what this will do is underneath you can see it's ribbed to follow the contour of the van. So we're fitting this on a Peugeot Boxer, so this one is made specifically for the Boxer roof, but on top it's nice and flat. So today we're fitting the Max Air, which is your standard skylight. You've got an internal shroud here, and underneath there then, once the roof has been put on the inside, you have a cover which has the lights on. So first thing we're going to do is come up and prep the roof. Now as you can see, this is actually quite dirty, and you can see the difference between where I've cleaned it and where it's dirty. Luckily on this one it's flat, so we're not going to need an adapter plate, but if I was fitting it anywhere up here on the ribs, that's when the adapter plate would come into play. And then when you put it down on the ribs, you could see it follows it quite nicely. So we are going to use this today. To make things simple, the hole is a standard 400 by 400, which is what the internal part of this is. So we're going to use that to draw our line on there in a bit. But the first thing we need to do is give that a really good clean. So I'll just clean it with some power spray, some rag, and then I'll go over it with some alcohol wipes just to get any grease and that off, and then we'll mark up. Okay, so that's cleaned up quite nicely. I know the center of this fan is the center of this rib here, so what we're just going to do is use this and use it to centralize it both left to right and front to back. I'm going to do that now. Okay, now it's been centered, I've just drawn on the inside and I've got my cutout. So again, as I said, that's just 400 by 400. That's standard for the skylight that we're fitting today, but do double check your measurements. And as you can see, it falls nicely within all the flat areas. So next thing we're going to do is masking tape around the outside of this cut line, and that's because when we're using the jigsaw to cut, we don't want any swarf to sort of go underneath the pad of the jigsaw and it will scratch the paintwork. So we're just going to get some masking tape on the outside of this, and then we'll get some holes done. Right, now the area is prepared. First thing we're going to do is cut a couple of holes in the corners, and I'm going to use a step down drill bit. And don't forget, I got gloves, ear defenders and my glasses. Right, so I've got 4 holes in each corner, just big enough for the jigsaw blade. I'm going to blow off this swarf, so again to minimise any scratching on the van, and then we can cut her out with a jigsaw. We need to use metal cutting jigsaw blades. For these I choose the Irwin's standard metal cutting jigsaw blades. I like these ones, they're a little bit longer than the standard metal blades. And the reason this is quite important is when you're cutting around ribs, the base of your jigsaw can move up and down with the ribs. And what you don't want is you don't want the end of the blade coming out of your cut, because it will hit the metal and then it'll bounce off, okay? So in this instance, nice long blade, nice and fresh. And that is one hole cut. So again, we'll give this van a blow just to get rid of all this swarf. You don't want to leave this on your van. This is pure steel, and this will rust in no time because it's so small, and you'll get rust spots all over your van. Take the masking tape off, then I'll show you the next stage. Right, now that's done, we're actually going to use a file to take off any of the burrs around the edges. So we're just going to do all four sides, and you need to cover both the top side and the bottom. So what I do, you can do that for the top, but then underneath, and that will just take the burrs off. So that's all the burr off, and the next stage is we need to treat this bare metal, okay? So we're gonna have bare metal all the way around you from where the cutout is, and this bit here is just a dabber which we can use to treat that bare metal, and I'll go around all of that, make sure that none of that bare metal is showing, and make sure we get that all completely covered up. Okay, so we've got the treatment on the bare metal, so while we're waiting for that to dry, there's actually something else we can do while we're waiting, and that is to make a timber frame which we're going to cut on the chop saw. Now I use tannalized wood or roof battens, and what we're going to do is we need to make a frame where the internal hole is obviously 400 by 400. Now I actually do it 402 by 402 just to give me a little bit of leeway, makes it for a nicer fit. So we're going to make this frame, and that is going to go on the inside. Now every Skylight needs this, because when you screw down in your Skylight, you don't want to just go into a single skin of metal. So we want to go through the metal and bite into a nice timber frame. So let's get these made. Right, the next thing we're going to do, now our frame's made, is we're going to put some silicone. I use CT1 white, and we're going to do it quite thickly all across the top of this frame, and then we'll fit that on the hole on the inside of the van. Right, that's the silicone on. And what we're going to do is, when we put it on there, obviously that silicone is going to be enough to hold it because it's upside down. So I've actually got two props for here that I will use to hold that in place while I do the work from above. So I got my two props holding it, and that's literally just until I've got my screws through. That's just not gonna fall down or go anywhere. Now before I do anything else up top, we need to give this another good clean. So what I'll do is go around it again with a little bit of this, and then we'll just get some alcohol wipes around that. So that's the next step. Right, so what I've done now, don't worry, this isn't fitted yet. I've just dropped it in the hole, and around the outside you can see these little circles on the edge of the Skylight. So we're going to go around, we're going to pre-drill all of those, go through the casing, the metal, and just into the wood to prep for the next step. Okay, so you can just see where I've gone through, and we've got some pilot holes going all the way around. Now we can take the Skylight back down. We're going to put the silicone on the Skylight before we bed it. Okay, so I've got the Skylight upside down, and on this one you can just see there's a channel, and this channel goes all the way around the sky. And again, we're going to use the CT1. It's a brilliant sealant adhesive, so we're going to use that. We're going to fill that channel up with silicone, which I'll show you just before we fit it. Right, that's the bead of silicone on. You can see I'm pretty generous with it. It's not a problem. I want it to be, make sure I've got a nice seal going all the way around. I've never had a leak. Don't plan on starting now, so we're gonna get this fitted. Any excess that comes out when you're screwing it down, we can clean that up later. So we're gonna take this up and bed it. I won't do anything more with that today now. I will go up in a bit and just clean up the silicone, but I want to let that set now, so we'll come back to this tomorrow. But from the inside, you can see where you've got the slots where the shrouds will go. These screws have actually come through the timber, so I'll take the ends of those off. But that's fitted beautifully. I've just quickly brought you actually into another van because we fitted the same skylight in here, but this has all been completely finished. So you can see on this one, it's got the fly net and the blind, which the other one will have, and you've also got the internal shroud here that fits on the underneath of the ceiling and then screws up into the holes on the main frame that we've just fitted. And that is how we fit a skylight. So I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope it's helped some of you out. Join us next time for another how-to.